What if you gave yourself permission to go back and remember what you might have forgotten to carry forward with you? In this episode, Dr. Sally Hare is speaking with Jeff Cresswell in a courageous community conversation on Zoom. Sally will explain why the Sankofa bird has become so important to her field guide for life.
And Sally, I want to start out by saying that my experience of reading The Elder Garden was that I was reading the roadmap of your life. And I wonder if you can talk a little bit about that.
I use the word field guide intentionally rather than roadmap because the map often didn't show me where I was going. My next destination wasn't on it. And in fact, the Sankofa bird has become so important to me. I want to show you this beautiful one that I just received recently as a gift from Mary and David. Caroline Fearless actually gifted me with the Sankofa because I didn't know this bird. And I love the fact that the bird comes from an African tradition, the Akan people, many of whom were enslaved in South Carolina. But of course, I didn't know all of that at the beginning. But the Sankofa tells me, and here's where it's saying that it's okay to go back and remember that which we have forgotten. And I think in doing that, it became more of a roadmap, but in a sense, a backwards roadmap. And, I know that the Sankofa tells us, and later Kierkegaard in his wisdom told us, and then later Benjamin Button in his wisdom told us that life can only be lived forwards but understood backwards. But that's really how I see this book. I wrote it for me, because I needed to, but I also wrote it because over the last 30 years of Courage to Teach and Circles of Trust, I have learned that the individual and the community are two sides of the Mobius strip. And I wanted to be able to share this journey and what I was seeing by going back in the hopes that it would be of use to you.
The phrase life can only be lived forward but understood backwards resonates with me. And the quote, I'm going to forget who it's from, but traveler, there is no road. The road is made by walking.
Yes.
So it's only a map after you've lived it or after you've walked it.
Which is so ironic and so such a different cultural paradigm than we have all been taught. You use the map to find the right way to get there.
Yeah, exactly. Which sort of speaks to kind of a different paradigm than the paradigm that I think this book represents, which is a paradigm of the expert, that we need to have somebody tell us what to do and how to think and where to go because we couldn't figure that out on our own. And what struck me about the book is that the way that you stitched together your own stories and how the practices grew out of your story, somehow, because you told your story so well, it becomes universal. Because as I read each one of your stories, it brought up stories from my life too. So somehow in that fantastic way that synchronicity happens, when you tell your story well, it's also my story.
Love that, Jeff. And I see that Tony has put into the chat that beautiful poem, Traveler, There Is No Road by Antonio Machado.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And yes, to everything that you said, I think the hardest part for me of this journey, and I don't think I really knew it till I wrote it, was giving up some of those cultural paradigms, unlearning, as it were, which is much harder than learning. But so much of what I had learned was not only not of use, but it was actually deforming in terms of my claiming my own agency, my own sense of meaning. I really thought at one point that life was about finding the meaning, finding if there was one gigantic meaning, and I was here to find it and live into it. And it's only through 30 years of circles like we've all been part of Courage to Teach, and circles of trust, and circles of renewal and wholeness, and healing circles and other circles, that I've come to understand that meaning is actually a very individual responsibility. We are here to create our own meaning.
Mm.
And that was a huge shift for me and involved a lot of painful unlearning.
Yes. And I wonder, Sally, if that unlearning isn't actually a practice, because it's not like you've unlearned it and it's done and you've left it behind. It's still with you.
Oh, yes. Yes. And in fact, I feel like so much of embracing the role of elder is embracing learning for a lifetime. And that, of course, includes constant unlearning.
Yeah.
Yes. The younger we are, the better chance we have of not learning it in a way that we then have to unlearn. But that's also up to all of us as we become elders and we begin to bring into what we're learning the next generations, to do that in a way that they both can find hear their own inner teachers, their own inner wisdom, and not have to do so much relearning.